Hello everyone, my name is Katy Lipscomb. I am an artist known for my vibrant watercolor and colored pencil illustrations, bringing to life creatures both real and imaginary. I'm also the author of the Artist Drawing Book, an award-winning instructional activity guide that helps artists of all skill levels explore the essentials of drawing through fun, interactive lessons and activities. Today I'm so excited to guide you through my Nightlights coloring kit. Throughout this video, I'll walk you through the entire process, step by step, giving you all my best tips and tricks for bringing these vibrant scenes to life. Whether you're an experienced artist or just starting out, this kit is an amazing way to create two beautiful works of art featuring our lantern fox and lantern owl. This kit uses Grizaye's color map system to help guide and simplify your color selection. That being said, don't be afraid to deviate and experiment as much or as little as you would like. We've even included 27 additional elements that you can add to your page to further customize your piece. Before we jump in, let's explore what's inside your Nightlights kit. This kit comes with most of the supplies that you'll need to complete both projects, including 2 projects printed on Legion Stonehenge paper, 2 pages of color maps that have the line art with the numbers indicating which colors are recommended to go in each section, 2 pages of color palettes which show all the pencils needed to complete the projects. You'll also find an instruction guide on how to use the Grizaye color map system, 1 sheet of transfer art featuring 27 different elements, a sheet of black transfer paper so you can easily add the elements to your projects, and lastly, a magnifying card to help you see every detail. This kit is designed to work with the Grizaye Velvet Touch pencils. If you are using a different brand of pencils, you can download a free pencil comparison chart from Grizaye's website to determine the best colors to match the Grizaye recipes. In addition to the kit and colored pencils, I would also recommend that you have a colorless blender, a roll of artist tape, a pencil sharpener, an eraser, and a sheet of wax paper. You'll want to pick a location that has good lighting, a comfortable chair, and a smooth, hard work surface. Coloring can and should be a relaxing process, so you might also want to gather a few comfort items. Pour yourself a cup of warm tea, light a candle, put on some soothing music, and anything else that might get your creative juices flowing. This kit includes 2 projects so that you can create a matching pair of original artworks. However, you don't need to finish both, or even a full one in a single sitting. Go at your own pace and enjoy the creative process. So grab your pencils, find a cozy spot, and let's get started. Adding custom elements. Before you start, you may want to customize your scene with some of the optional transfer art elements. The kit comes with 27 unique elements, including bats, birds, stars, feathers, and more. This step is totally optional, but can help to customize the scene to make it your own. To transfer an element, first pick the design you'd like to add. Look at your project and the transfer art options and see if there are any blank areas that might benefit from an additional element. Once you've selected what you want to transfer and where you'd like it to go, it's time to align the sheets. You can just approximate the position, but I like to use backlighting to help. By doing this, you can see the lines of the project and the transfer art, allowing you to align them however you'd like. Once you have them aligned, use a piece of tape along one edge to secure them together. Then, at your workspace, slide the black transfer paper under the sheet of transfer art. It's important that the real dark side is facing down and the lighter sheet is facing up. Now, using a sharp pencil or pen, trace over the element you'd like to add. No need to press very hard because a little goes a long way. I recommend checking your progress before tracing the full artwork. Because we hinge the paper with a piece of tape, this is easy to do. Simply lift the side of the transfer sheet and check to be sure it's going down exactly where and how you want it. Then lay the piece back down and finish tracing. Once your element has been traced onto your project, you can remove the transfer sheet. If you'd like to add more elements to your scene, simply repeat the process. You could add a bird to a branch of a tree, leaves or feathers falling in the breeze, or a bat flying through the sky. For the pieces that I'll be coloring, there won't be any additional elements, but this is only so that the instructions will apply to everyone. I encourage you to customize and personalize your line art as much as you'd like. Now it's time to get started. You'll want to get out the Lantern Fox project, along with the color palette page and the color map page for the fox. First, lay down your paper where you'd like to work. Now let's tape down our artwork to a hard, flat surface. I like to line up the tape so that it's about 1/4 inch from the edge of the paper. Once the first edge is down, continue until all 4 edges are tightly taped. Taping your piece will help so that you don't have to hold it in place while you work. Once your piece has been stretched and mounted, we are ready to get coloring. If you are right-handed like I am, I recommend that you start with the left side of your project and then gradually move across the page as you work. This way you can prevent your hand from smudging the areas that you've already colored. If you are left-handed, you'll want to do the opposite. I'm going to start on this plant on the left side. To make coloring a bit easier, I'm going to save the background for last. Grizaye's color map system simplifies color selection, making professional level color blending more accessible to beginners while still leaving room for creative expression. For any area that you want to color, simply reference the color map to determine which pencil to use. Referencing my color map, I can see this plant will be using pencil colors 33, 31, 25, and 28. Plants and other objects are rarely a single color, so by moving in a gradation like this, we are taking a more realistic and dynamic approach. As the plant gets lighter and more saturated closer to the top, it also imitates the glow of the moonlight shining through the leaves. Next, we'll move on to the fox's body. One of the most unique elements of Grizaye kits is the bloom recipes. Blooms use a range of colors to form gradations, which help create depth and dimension in your coloring. To do this, start with your first pencil and use a light hand to add an even layer of color. Next, you'll use your second pencil to add a darker layer to the outer edges. Work inwards to create depth and a smooth transition, but leave the innermost part of your first color visible. Next, you will take your third pencil and add color to only the outermost edges or the areas that are meant to have the darkest shadows. You will now add color in reverse order to blend your bloom together using your second color and then your first color. The effect should be a smooth and well-blended bloom that really makes the selection stand out. Your bloom colors don't have to be added in a circular pattern. You can create a horizontal gradient or even mimic the pattern of the fox's fur. I'm shaping the area with the darker colors of the bloom to create fluffy fur. Follow the natural direction of the fur using short flowing strokes. Keep this going for each of the other sections that use the bloom recipe. As you can see, I'm working in a vertical column from left to right, top to bottom. With the fox's fluff done, let's move down the plants below the body. Like the first plants, start light and build up to darker tones. You'll want to maintain a balance between the plants and the fox's body so neither overwhelms the other. Now I'll finish coloring the leg, and then after I'll move to the ear. While you have the black, you can use it to outline the tufts of the ear to add a bit more definition. Now I'm going to color some of the circles in the background. These are fun little orbs that I imagined as fireflies shimmering in the distance. I'll start with a soft white base, then fade to yellow, and finish with soft layers of jasmine. Then layer a bit more yellow and finish with a light layer of white. These glowing orbs really help to add a touch of magic to the scene. Now let's bring the left side of the fox's head and chest to life. Start with the fur on the left side of the face, using those same short strokes to mimic the fur texture. I'm starting with the lightest color and then moving to dark. This way my colors won't get muddy or accidentally mixed. For the chest, we'll use longer strokes to create the appearance of soft flowing fur. With the left side of the face complete, let's move to the middle, focusing on the left eye. In the middle of the face, blend the colors gently to avoid harsh transitions. Moving down to the middle and right side of the fox's chest, follow the same technique as before. Light sweeping strokes to create soft, fluffy textures. Any area of the color map that does not have a number should be an area of background. We'll leave each of those cells for last. I love the curved leaves of this plant and think they really help to add movement to the scene. Now let's focus on the right side of the fox's head and the second ear. As you color, pay attention to how the light falls on the fox's face. By adding shadows consistent with your light source, we can create dimension. One of the most exciting things about this project is watching the lantern glow come to life. Start with the metal frame of the lantern. Metal texture is very different from fur. Harsh and blunt transitions can help give it a metallic, reflective quality. Now for the glass interior, use soft glowing yellows and oranges to create a radiant glow. Blend these into darker shades on the outside to make it look like the light is glowing from within. Now that the lantern is glowing, we'll finish up the plants. Because the lantern's glow is illuminating these plants, their color shifts and lightens the closer they are to the light source. Similar to shading fur, you can control your gradations to add volume to the leaves. I'm making the outer edges and inner veins darker to give the appearance of depth. For the orbs, use the same technique as before to maintain the magical glowing effect. The moon is also the same process as our glowing orbs, just at a much larger scale. One common mistake when coloring is applying too much pressure too soon. Remember, you want to build your layers gradually. If you press too hard from the start, it can be tricky to blend later. For this, it's actually best if your pencil is a bit duller rather than overly sharp, as you'll have less pronounced lines from the pencil tip, and you can cover more ground. The jasmine is mainly concentrated at the very edges so the moon will stay nice and bright while still having some depth. I'm going to leave the very center of the moon mostly white. Keep a bright highlight in the middle for maximum contrast. And now, I'm just going to finish by smoothing the colors with my colorless blender. Once all of the elements have been colored, it's time to create the background. This has a huge impact on our piece and really helps it all come to life. The background is a deep gradient, moving from indigo at the top to blue, green, and then yellow at the bottom. This imitates the night sky with a warm glow at the bottom. For these sections, you won't use all 4 of the colors in each cell. Instead, you'll move from one to the other depending on where it is in the scene. Background areas at the bottom might only have yellow in them, while areas in the middle might only have lime. If you'd like, it can be helpful to practice the gradient on a separate piece of paper before you start. Lightly fade from one color to the next, and then you can reference this to determine the colors of each cell. Take your time with this process. Use light sweeping strokes and layer the colors until you achieve a smooth transition. Because we'll be working over areas that we've already colored, I recommend putting a piece of paper down below your hand to prevent smudging. I use glassine for this, but you can use wax paper from your kitchen or any piece of slick paper. Be sure to color your background all the way to the edge of the tape. It's better to go too far and draw onto the tape than it is to not go far enough. If you want to add an even creamier blend, you can then take the blending pencil and blend it all together just one more time. To finish off our piece, I'll trace over some of the line art with black to sharpen any lines that may have faded during coloring. Because the line art is printed in dark brown, you can match it by using a dark brown pencil, or use a black pencil for even more contrast. Grizaye has one of my favorite black pencils from any brand that I've tried, because it's so rich and smooth. So I'm going to use that, but you can use whatever color you'd like. You can even use colors that match each of the subjects. For instance, in the plants, you might want to use a dark olive instead of black for the outlines so that the colors match. When drawing the outlines, it's important to have a very sharp point, so take your time with sharpening your pencil. I'll also add some extra black to the eyes, and a few other areas to really make them pop. Now is the time to add any final touches you feel the piece needs. Next, use your blender pencil to smooth out any areas that need burnishing. One last thing that I like to do is use my kneaded eraser to pick up any small pencil shavings, dust, or other elements from the surface of my work. You can carefully pat the surface of the paper with the eraser. Once you're happy with your coloring, it's time to carefully remove the tape. When removing the tape, pull it at a very sharp angle, as this will help to cleanly lift it off the paper. Move slowly and carefully. If you notice any tears or other issues, stop. I always love this part. It feels like unwrapping a present. With the tape removed, we have a nice clean border. Alright, and there we have it, our completed fox. And now whenever you're ready, we're going to move on to Project 2, our Nightlight's Owl. Now let's move on to the Lantern Owl. This is actually a brand new piece that was made specifically for this collection, and I'm super excited to share it with you all. What I recommend doing first is taking a look at the color palette here and pulling out each corresponding pencil before starting the project. This is going to make coloring so much easier, as you're not going to be looking through your entire set of pencils for the right color. Now, if you want to add any custom elements, remember to do that before taping your project to your surface, as having a backlight can help with aligning the two elements. Like before, we'll start by taping down the edges of the paper to keep everything secure. And then we can start coloring. Just like before, start with the top left elements. In this case, the branch and the moss-covered details. On the branches, begin lightly, filling with a soft base of raw umber before adding terracotta and then layering chestnut for the darkest shadows. As before, you'll then cycle back to the lighter colors of the bloom. You can use small, uneven strokes to mimic the textures of natural bark. The starburst will have a soft glowing effect, like the firefly orbs colored earlier. For these, you can stay within the lines, or feel free to extend your bloom slightly outside the edges to create a glowing effect. Moving on to the plants and moss that cover the top of the branch, we'll use various shades of green to give these elements a natural look. Start light, then layer in deeper greens to add dimension. Just like the fox, the lantern here is a key focal point. I'm working from top to bottom, coloring the chain before moving to the metal parts of the lantern. Then I'll start to color the inner areas and the flame. Pay attention to where the light would naturally fall on the lantern. I've always found lanterns to be fascinating, especially in night scenes like this. The way the light interacts with its surroundings creates such a magical glow. Next, we'll focus on the moon. This piece takes place a little later in the evening, so the moon is now higher in the sky. Because of this, the craters and details of the lunar surface are more prominent. I'm starting with the darker sections, each a blend of jasmine and gray. Then I'll work on the larger fill. Again, I want to keep the center of the moon the brightest and the outer edges darker to create depth. Let's start coloring the owl. Start with the head and the face, using short strokes to mimic feathers. Pay close attention to the shading around the eyes to give them depth. You can use black to define the eye. For the body, follow the natural direction of the feathers, building up the layers slowly for a soft, textured look. Keep the overall volume of the owl in mind as you work. For the feet, be sure to use a sharpened pencil to capture the small details of the pointed talons. The feet should look strong yet delicate, gripping the branch securely. The wing is one of my favorite parts to color. The feather colors largely work in a pattern, swapping from one color to the next, which adds a lot of variety. There's so much potential for subtle variations in shading each one. Now that the owl is colored, let's finish the branch and moss. Use the same technique as before, blending your colors to create depth and texture. Next, it's time to color the branch in the background. Color the last few starbursts before moving on to the background. For this piece, the background is a 3-color gradient with powder blue at the bottom, blue in the middle, and indigo at the top. Like the fox, we're aiming for a smooth gradient that evokes a calm twilight sky. I'm starting by lightly blocking each of the 3 colors before layering and blending the transition between them. A common beginner mistake is to be afraid of getting too close to the other colors, which leaves a lighter halo around each subject. Be sure that your background extends to the edges of your paper and flows up to the lines of all of the subjects. Once the background has been completed, use a darker pencil to pop out all of the final details, accent key features, and define your line art. If you spot any areas that could be a bit more blended or shaded, feel free to go back and touch them up. Add any final details, smooth out areas with the blender pencil, and use your kneaded eraser to pick up any dust. Then, carefully remove the tape. If you want to add an optional moment of magic, I recommend trying the Grizaye Glitz Glitter Pen. The Grizaye Glitz Pen is a glitter applicator designed for adding precision detail to select areas. This pen is a glitter applicator designed specifically for fine, controlled detailing. It's ideal for those final touches that add a bit of extra magic, whether that's highlighting the glow of a lantern, adding a twinkle to a star, or enhancing the sparkle in the fox's eye. One important thing to keep in mind when using the Glitz pen is that it will go down opaque first. Don't be scared, because it will dry clear. You could add a single layer for a subtle sparkle, or go over the area a few times to create a bolder, more dazzling effect. I've found that if you apply multiple thin layers, they dry really quickly, and you can layer the effect for an extra shimmer. Using the Grizaye Glitz Precision Pen is a fantastic way to elevate your artwork and give a unique, enchanting glow. Conclusion. And there you have it. Together we've brought together 2 beautiful nighttime scenes. The lantern fox and the lantern owl. Each one completed with your own creative flair. Don't forget to sign and date them, then you're ready to frame. I hope you found this project both relaxing and inspiring. Taking time to bring your art to life is such a rewarding process, and I'm thrilled to have shared this experience with you. Don't forget to share your pieces with us on social media. You can use the hashtag Grizaye and tag me at Katy Lipscomb. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep creating, keep experimenting, and remember, art is all about the joy of the process. I'm Katy Lipscomb, and I'll see you next time.